That's right. Do you have any questions before we hop in?
No, I am here for you.
I love it. Let's get in here. It's so good to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out for the program today. I appreciate it.
No, it's exciting. Anything Jimmy Camp recommends, I'm behind him. He's my guy.
I love it.
So,
So
yeah.
before we get into the good work and peel back the layers, 6 years ago, this pandemic changed our lives, changed the world. How did you get through that era, and how has it modified the way that you live and work today?
Interesting question. Okay. Um, I lucked out. COVID hit March of 2020, and that spring quarter, Cal Poly's on a quarter system. I was on sabbatical. So it hit, and I was like, everybody's scrambling around to do Zoom, and I just went on sabbatical, and it didn't faze me at all. I was going through a divorce, so that was intense. Um, I'm also extremely extroverted, so I had a lot of. You're supposed to just have one COVID bubble. Remember, what's your COVID bubble? I had like five COVID. I was a COVID slut,
Yeah.
and I had all these different bubbles. So I actually did okay. I did okay, and I will say this: I had to teach through Zoom the following fall, the fall of 2020. And Joe, I found it very sad. I love the classroom. I'm going to be 72 soon. Been teaching 48 years. Haven't lost a step. My girlfriend now, my wife, wants to be retired in a year and a half, but I don't know if I will. But I'll say this, seeing those kids like we're seeing each other right now on this Zoom thing for about a year. It started in that fall, for lasted a year. It would end, and I would feel so sad because they were trapped in their parents' home, wherever they were, Orange County, Fresno, looking really sad. And the Zoom literature class with me was the highlight of their day. And they're going back to their stupid room with their stuffed animals, and they're 21 years old. So after every class, I would go, peace and health,
Yeah.
because I felt like they needed peace and health. And I still do that, even though we're back in person. So it didn't affect me a lot, but it was sad for the students. And I kind of powered through it because I had a lot of friends, divorce going on, then eventually met my girlfriend in the fall of 2020, and it all worked out okay. Although we didn't even hold hands for the first four dates because, back then you could die, right?
Yeah.
There was no vaccine or anything.
Yeah. No, it was a Wild West. So let's get in. So along with the teaching, you're an author. If you were in front of a bunch of 13-year-olds at career day at a school, and one of the kids,
13 year olds?
yeah, 13-year-old brains,
You know
and
I
they
teach
wanted to,
college. You know I teach college kids, right?
yeah, no, but what I'm saying is if you had to explain your job, what you do holistically to young kids, how would you explain it?
My job is to mess you up. It is to take all the things you thought were true, you got from your parents, your religion, your race, your neighborhood, your culture, your church, whatever it is, your politics you were given, and this is what you got, and you're ready to rebel because you're 14, 15, you're going to rebel like crazy. Do the rebellion, question everything, and when you get to me at 19 or 20, I'm going to do it all over again. I'm going to make you doubt everything you thought you knew and you thought you believed. And then, at the end, choose what you want to believe because you're choosing it, not because it was given to you through family, church, neighborhood, culture, class, race.
And you guys are the heroes because I remember that when I was in college. I just came out thinking, what the hell happened? I grew up in a very suburban little growing town called Liberty outside of Kansas City and how all these fixed notions. But it wasn't until college with this philosophy of totally scrambling it up, which was totally essential.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to University of Missouri, Kansas City.
Okay. Okay. What'd you study?
I had communication studies.
Okay.
I wanted to get into broadcasting and kind of got into sports broadcasting, opened the door and thought, I don't think so. Got out, finally got back in. So I got a jazz radio show. And I
Was your
actually,
background religious, conservative? What was it?
I would say probably in the middle of the road. I was very ultra conservative Christian in high school. Everything got mixed up.
I'm
And I
sorry.
found this kind of level of like finding a middle ground between both sides of the world and
Well, you
kind of
got to be that now for what you do.
yeah, right. You
Yeah.
do. But I think I've lived long enough. I've had enough experiences. Um, Having a son on the spectrum has really rearranged the way I look at reality and given me
How old is your son?
he's 21 now.
Okay. Is it getting
So
better? Is it getting better?
You know what? He's my hero. He's the guy that has to try harder than anybody around.
Yeah.
It may not seem like it, but for little things to kind of settle in, it takes a long time and a lot of effort. And he just brings a light to people. He doesn't have to get into all of the deep things that we do about life.
Right.
He
Right.
gets to kind of be more cerebral. It's like that quote from Bukowski, "We're born geniuses and buried idiots." I think a lot of these kids that are on the spectrum have this level of genius that is just untethered, that stays intact, that allows them to see the yellow and the and the sunlight and not get clouded by all the gunk.
Is he in college?
No, he's actually at a day program. He graduated. It's an extended program, and he graduated from high school this December, and he's in a day program that's kind of structured like school. He's getting ready to start a job. A lot of it's kind of slow, but
Good for
he's
him.
he's getting there.
Well, since everybody started mainstreaming anybody with any kind of mental disability, I do see quite a bit of that. Um, Not just in my students, but in my fellow faculty. You
Yeah.
know, uh, I can think off the top two or three faculty members in my department that have some level of autism, and I don't know how much they are aware of it, but I like what you said. They're in a world of intellectual exuberance,
Yes.
and they don't pick up on the things that are daily that weigh us down
Uh-huh.
somehow. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful to see that because there is a lot of heavy, especially in these days. I mean, there's certain headlines that my son won't bring up to me until a month later. And I'm like, wow, that's so great to not have that weighing on the brain. So
Does he follow the politics at all?
he does. He loves voting. I've weaned him on
He
voting since
loves voting.
the
I
the
love
first
that.
the first
Tell
time.
him to vote two or three times.
What's that?
Tell him to vote two or three times.
That's it. Exactly. So the first time that he got really excited was after Obama got elected, and we went to the newspaper box and got a paper out. He was ecstatic, and when he started being able to go into the polls with me and he votes, and I still go over and help him read everything and get him going. It's he's democratically ready to go for
Yeah,
sure.
my daughter's 25, and I think she was born in 2000. Obama changed her life too. She became politicized then, and now she's really radical left. But when I teach this quarter right now, I have a large lecture GE class, 120 students, all majors, and they're basically juniors and seniors who never took intro to classical lit. And we do the Bible and the Odyssey, and I tell them early on, I said, there's no such thing as an objective teacher. If you think there is, that's the first lie you've been told, you know? The thing is, your teachers, whoever they are, have to reveal where they're coming from, and then you filter it through that, right? So I tell them, look, I'm a pragmatic liberal. So you know that now, and you can filter it through it. But there is no objectivity. We're all coming from somewhere, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I tell them if they have strong political biases or strong religious biases, if they're really Christian, they're like Polyphemus, you know, the Cyclops, they can only see through this narrow way, then they should probably go to a private school and get the hell out of Cal Poly and go to where they're just going to be reinforced with what they already knew,
Uh-huh.
and won't be challenged.
Yeah.
Because here I'm going to mess you up.
That's good. Well, but that's good. And I didn't know I needed that until I got into school. And it just everything got scrambled. I fell in the right friends. That was a very emblematic period. So I'm always
Well,
very
it's under threat now, and that's what academic freedom is all about.
that's right.
It's abused. I mean, the whole DEI thing was out of control. It was like a Maoist religion. I mean, any course I taught, I had to talk about. I had to put my course description before I got it, processed and accepted by the academic senate. What is this going to do for DEI? And I'm teaching the ancient Greeks,
Yeah. Right.
So it kind of backlash and that too is a problem. But the sacredness of academic freedom, as long as we use it responsibly, is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely it is. It's
Yeah,
essential, especially
yeah.
in these modern times. So let me get you back to that 13-year-old brain. What did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream gig?
I don't think I thought about it that much at 13 because I was, a child of the 50s, coming of age in the 60s. And even when I went to Holy Cross in the early 70s, we still didn't think that way. I have two brothers. They're both still alive. They're both much older. One is a retired Supreme Court judge from New Hampshire, and the other one is a medical doctor retired in Florida. So I had this, kind of burden. I got a brother who's a judge, a brother who's a doctor. Man, John Coleman, you gotta, you got to own up somehow. So I loved English literature early on, and by the time I graduated from Holy Cross, I figured, oh, maybe I'll be a psychiatrist. I'll go and get my medical degree and mix kind of literature and psychiatry. And then I realized I hated organic chemistry, and I couldn't figure out Avogadro's number, and I went straight for a PhD in literature. So I don't think my revelation happened um, till late high school. Good question. And it's actually in the new book I'm working on now, Blood and Spirit. I had a teacher my senior year of high school, all boy Catholic high school in Pittsburgh, and he was teaching only because he was avoiding the Vietnam War because they were taking everybody by 1972,
Hmm.
and unless you were a teacher in high school. So he was against the war. He was teaching there under protest, and he turned me on to William Faulkner. And that was the turning point for me. And then when I went to Holy Cross, I said, that's what I want to read. I want to read English literature. But I think at 13, I don't think I was politicized, and I don't think I knew much. You know,
But you came from a lot of high achievers, obviously, with you and
I
your.
did. My father was a lawyer too. Yep, he was in a big firm.
Okay.
Uh, he went into deep depression, eventually took his life in 1975. But I think, nobody gave me anything. My father, that was very well off, he lost everything in a bunch of big deals. So by the time I went to college, we were pretty much bankrupt, and my brothers and sisters were supporting my mother. And I went off to college kind of with nothing, which I think is really important. Everything I've done in my life, I feel like I did it myself. And I have this daughter who's 25 in Santa Barbara. When I die, she's going to get all this money in this house, this beautiful house I'm in. And I kind of don't think that's a good idea. I think kids have to find their way on their own to a degree.
Yeah, I agree.
I bet you did.
I did. Yeah, yeah.
I can see by your confidence and your presence that you did.
Yeah, I totally did. And I've always admired that about life that I've everything when I got in the professional world, I didn't quite know what I was going to do. I didn't want to do broadcasting. And I got into like a healthcare consulting firm and I was doing graphic design and everybody around me that had a good job, their parents all worked in the hospital system or they were politically connected. And I was like, the last thing I want to do is have any nepotism be a part of who I am, what I'm doing. I want
You
all
knew
of my
that. You knew that then.
yeah, yeah. I was like, I want it to be me. I mean, I'm the son of my dad was a car salesman. My mom was an insurance representative, just answered phones at an insurance company. So I just came from stock where it was blue collar. So I was the first person that graduated from college in my family. That was a big deal for my dad, being a son of an immigrant coming from Brooklyn and all of that. He would always just be like, here's big stuff walking in.
Where'd
Here's
your dad immigrate from?
well, his parents immigrated from Italy, came from Naples and Shaka, Sicily, and they went to. He grew up in Brooklyn and Long Island, so there was that real blue collar Italian kind of
You
early
could
thing.
be a New Yorker.
I hear that sometimes.
Sometimes your accent goes a little bit that way, and you have the gravitas and the humor and everything, presence.
It's fun. I remember I used to go to my uncle owned a pastry shop in Long Island, and it was back when that Buttafuoco thing was going on, and I would sit
Oh
back.
my God, I
I
forgot all about
Oh my
Butterfield.
God, I would listen to them bullshit. They were like, that son of a bitch was out watering his lawn today. They were taking pot shots at him, and they just had this bravado about him. And it was
Yeah,
just this homebrew wisdom that was so refreshing to
it's funny how you take I really do think, I know your question was about 13-year-olds, but I really do think by the time you're 7, you are who you are.
exactly.
And in a ways, here I am at 71, I'm still that 7-year-old boy.
That's it.
And you are to a degree too.
That's it.
It stays with us forever.
I always have this image, a Rockwellian image of me going up and shaking the hand of that kid and saying, "What do you think, man?
Yeah.
How do you think this all turned out?" You know?
Yeah, yeah. My memoir, Kaufman's Hill, which did very well, is set in Pittsburgh, 61 to 68, which I call it the twilight time. It's after the 50s, which we all know. It ends in 68 when things go crazy with the Cultural Revolution. It's that little twilight time. And it's very much a Pittsburgh book. It did really well. I did a national tour of like 31 readings, 24 cities. Um, and a few years later, I'm guessing it was around early, maybe 2022, 23, I was in a restaurant in Santa Barbara visiting my daughter, and I see Michael Keaton, and he's sitting at a table. And I don't know if you know, Michael Keaton's also from Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
If you catch Michael Keaton at the right time, he will start using his Pittsburgh accent. And I walked by his table. I say nothing. I don't even look. I just walk by. I go, Yinzer. Now, Yinzer's a Pittsburgh term because Pittsburgh used the term Yins. Yins going downtown. Yins going over there. It's like y'all, but Yins. I say, Yinzer. And he says, wanker. Just like that. And there was no conversation, just Yinzer and wanker.
That's so cool. Pittsburgh, PA has two of the finest exports that America has ever made. Fred Rogers and Mary Lou Williams.
Ah,
From a jazz standpoint, there was no finer mind. She came to Kansas City and played a lot. And I just found out, I just covered a book called Kansas City, A Little Evil Will Do You Good. The author of that book found out she quit because she had all these family heirlooms, these souvenirs on the tour bus, and someone stole them. And she was done. She couldn't take the thieving, the drugging, the stealing, and she got out. But she was just a black woman at that time, did not
hmm.
have any level of,
Yeah.
being admired. And then Fred Rogers, of course, I mean, he will go down as one of the greatest protectors of children in our modern realm.
You know, I never saw it that way, protecting children, but I guess he did. I
He
guess
loved
he
them.
did.
Yeah, and he emboldened them.
It was a safe space
Yep,
with this odd, and I think he might be on the spectrum a little bit. Well, he's dead now, but
true.
I think he was.
Yeah. I think a lot of those PBS guys were even the painter Bob Ross. I think there was a level of him that was in that realm too. But there was
Huh.
such a comfort. There was such a level of
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
like, we were okay here on this planet. Gravity made sense for a while.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
So
um,
why'd you bring up 13-year-olds?
well, I always want to go back to when people were kids. What was your dream? Because there's a dream. Like for me, I wanted to be with Poncherelli on Chips. I'm a kid from Kansas City. I see all this wonderful yellow sunshine in LA. I want to get on a bike and go out. I want to fight crime, you know? And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
a lot of those early things in our lives can be tether points to where
Yeah.
we end up.
Well, it's an interesting question because I don't think I knew anything about that at 13 because I was caught up in the 60s and hippie culture. I was politicized certainly shortly after that. In high school, I'm sure you remember, you were either a jock or a hippie or a cake eater,
Yeah.
which is a yuppie, or this is derogatory, what we call the Puerto Rican, a greaser. The Puerto Ricans were the greasers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and you had to pick a group. So I was a hippie, and I realized one day I didn't really know what I was doing being a hippie at 14 or 15. And some kid came up to me and said, Hampsey, you're not a hippie. You're too busy being a hippie to be a hippie.
Oh, wow.
And there's some truth to that,
Yeah.
right?
That's
You're
it.
so busy being a hippie that you're not a hippie. Yeah.
Well,
The mantra I give my students now in my GE class, I have a class now, it's grad students, the romantics, but that's different. But the GE students, they're all ages and all. The mantra I give them, I stole from my dear, dear friend Howard Zinn. We were very tight, father-son relationship. I met him at BU and I taught at BU, and he was there. And he used to say the greatest lies in history are what's been left out.
yeah.
They're not false facts. So, Joe Dimino says, 300,000 soldiers died in Vietnam. I can say, Joe, 58,000. That's a fact. We know that, right?
Yeah.
But the stuff that's left out, that we
Yeah.
haven't been told, that hasn't been in history books, that hasn't made it out, that's the good stuff, right? And
Yeah.
so I think my job is to expose them to what's been left out.
Absolutely. And I
And
think, yeah,
another word for that is kitsch, the kind of cliched, least common denominator, simplistic things that people serve at us. Like, well, they say, the 1960s, what do you think of? And bell bottoms, free love, Vietnam. Or if I say, I do this in class, Martin Luther King, they say, I have a dream.
yeah.
That's all they know about Martin Luther King.
Mhm.
You know, he did so many great things, but I have a dream.
That's it.
Beethoven, da 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 da. That's all they know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I want to blow that up.
absolutely. And it's totally necessary. Talk to me about Soda Lake.
Um, Soda Lake, it's just kind of winding down. I just finished the tour, although I'm going to go to Ireland and read in June, and it did very, very well. It's my vision book. Okay, it's a tough book. It's a postmodern book. Um, when I go and read it and talk about it and go across the country as I did, people were drawn in. The book sales have been strong. I had a hard time publishing it because it is very postmodern. There's a scene that opens at the beginning with a body disappearing, so it's kind of a mystery. Somebody disappeared into this white salt lake, but then these other narrators come in and complicate it. But the core of the book is this figure, McQuaid. And you're going to probably think I'm crazy, but uh, I really feel, Joe, that over 50% of the book I didn't write. In fact, when I did these readings in Washington and Boston and New York and Los Angeles, everywhere, I would say during my intro, I just want to let you guys, I would make a confession. I did not write Soda Lake. And they're all thinking, plagiarism, what do you do? It's a book of the four books I published where not the sub, the unconscious came through.
Yeah.
And I somehow was able to let that channel and let that happen. For instance, let me give you an example. The first chapter is a body disappearing into a white lake. That's true. I went to Soda Lake. It's up north of here. I saw a guy walk into Soda Lake. It's the only lake you can walk into because it's made of salt. And so the first chapter I wrote about this mysterious disappearance, I didn't know I was going to write a novel. But then the second chapter's in my driveway, in my garage room, I'm out there. I have one cigarette every night and one brandy. And I go out to have my brandy and cigarette, and I go to throw the ashtray and the ashes in the bin, and I go out there, and instead of this stack of logs sitting there, I see this man, and he's called the garage wall man. It's the shape of a man, and suddenly, I don't even make it up. We have this Socratic dialogue, and he tells me about McQuaid. And McQuaid was a man he loved, and who's from Ireland. And I didn't make the garage wall man up. He appeared like out of a 13th century medieval tale. He's the one who tells me about McQuaid. I didn't make McQuaid up, and McQuaid becomes the center of the book. He's older than Yahweh, older than Jesus, older than Islam. He's like this sui generis, born out of the mind, personal God that we all have that's been there before the beginning of time.
Yeah.
The key thing, Joe, and then I'll shut up,
No, you're
is
good.
I'm supposed to go to Greece on a sabbatical to research Heraclitus, and this Cal Poly's okayed it. It's 2013. And what the garage man told me about McQuaid seemed so real that I changed my sabbatical and I went to Donegal, Ireland to look for McQuaid because the garage wall man talked about him. The garage wall man's not real. He makes up a character McQuaid, and I literally went to Donegal and drove all through it asking about a guy named McQuaid to try and find him. That's never been done before in literature. An author going somewhere to look for a character who's not real, and what happens is actually what's in the book, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what the audience has picked up on. They were fascinated by McQuaid.
You know what's interesting that completely comes into my mind is that whole idea of Field of Dreams, of the chasing down of the voices. And it ended up being real, but it's that idea of pursuit, of Kinsella saying, we're all going to go to some ancestral source, whether it's real, imagined, subconscious, conscious. It could be an amalgamation of all of those things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we're chasing for meaning. And
But you have to be willing to make that journey.
yeah, sure.
And a lot of people aren't going to do it.
That's it. It it's
Yeah.
it's that willpower.
At the time, I felt like I was losing my mind. What am I doing not going to Greece? What am I doing going to Donegal and asking about it? And every answer I got led me more and more north till finally Malin, which is the northernmost point of all of Ireland. That's where it leads me to. And there's a pub there, and I'm hanging out one night, and I get this idea that McQuaid is escaping on a boat at night, and there's an island 5 miles north of Malin. It's the northernmost island in Ireland. It's made of 30 billion year old rock, and I pay a fisherman at 6 in the morning the next day to take me to Innistrahall. Nobody lives in that island. It's been abandoned since 1930s, and then the storms come, and I'm stuck there overnight. I find the stone hovel, and I'm really kind of losing my mind and having this dialogue with this character. Uh, I think we have to be willing to make that journey, and a lot of people aren't. So that's at the heart of Soda Lake. It's a classic tale of, looking for somebody who's not real, filled with all these characters you meet along the way. It's got suspense in it. It's got all these things going on, but it's really about the search for self.
Absolutely.
And the search for self, you have to leave what you're comfortable with and make the journey, as I did literally to go find McQuaid. Yeah.
So I gotta know, I want to contrast with the 13-year-old question. If
Yeah, I
you had a
love the fact you're hanging on to that 13-year-old question. You keep
well,
hanging on to that.
yeah, but I'm going to jump to where you're at now. Let's say you have a dream and you run into the 18-year-old version of you ready to go out into the world, and you have there's a projector next to that young version of you, and you come in at your age, you hit play, and it's a 60-second highlight reel of this life you've lived that you've orchestrated. Would that young version of you believe that your life turned out this way?
Man, have I got an answer for you? Are we okay? It's 9:30.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
this runs out in 9 minutes, but yeah, we got 9 minutes.
Oh, okay. I was told it's 9 to 9:30. Okay.
Yeah,
Um, that's okay. That fact you asked that question is so cool because I'm working on a new book right now. I'm halfway through called Blood and Spirit.
yeah,
And the current chapter I'm working on is set in Paris in 1976, 77. And I lived in Paris 76, 77. I was 22. And I actually kept careful journals when I was over there. Now I love to write about places that are gone forever. The Paris of 1976 is gone forever. You know, I lived atop a hotel for 26 francs a day, and that's $6 a day. But here's the thing about your question. I was going to write this chapter set in Paris called Le Jardin, the garden, and my memories were faulty. And what am I doing? I said, John, you always have your memory. It always brings up things you do memoir. And then I remembered I had these journals, and I found these journals, and they're in this tub right here. I mean, now this is what they look like. This is these blue journals right here,
yeah,
and they're day by day of when I lived in Paris that year. I'm 22 years old, and I have careful notes. Here's the notes. It's 22 pages of typed notes and I haven't been able to really start the chapter, but you can see it's single
yeah,
space. So the notes are me copying down all those journals. And the person in the notes is this 22-year-old John Hampsey. And it's like I'm at a cafe, and 71-year-old John Hampsey is looking over there, 22-year-old John Hampsey, and I don't like him very much.
yeah,
I don't like him. He's cocky, he's a little homophobic, he's really self-involved, and he thinks he's going to be in Paris and he's going to be the next Hemingway. And so somehow, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this chapter, but this idea of us confronting our past self and realizing we don't really like this person, to me, is a fascinating setup.
yeah. It is a fascinating setup.
I mean, do you like the person you were at 18 or 19 or 20?
I think I would be curious to see the precipice that I was on because things really changed after a bad breakup in my early 20s, late in college, before I ran into some friends and got into a lot of what you're doing with
Yeah,
the existential thought. I remember reading Lies My Teacher Taught Me and getting into like mind expanding music and reading Kerouac and the Beats and Lou Reed and all of that. There was a tsunami of things that I look back now on my life that I get to give my kids. And I have a very advanced thinking stepdaughter that just moved to San Diego, and she's kind of gotten this fearlessness and these ideas that I've been imbued with, and it's great
yeah,
to be able to have that torch to, like with your daughter at 25, to pass those things on and to see that grow in somebody else. That's why you do what you do. You're
yeah,
giving them the wherewithal to find their way, and that's beautiful.
yeah. Well, you got a good background there with Kerouac. And what else did you mention? You mentioned the Beats.
Yeah, yeah, all
Yeah.
of that. Yeah. I mean, all of those guys.
You know,
Yeah, and
I met Ferlinghetti a couple times. He came to my house one time because I brought him in to do a reading at Cal Poly.
yeah.
And my first book, I got a blurb from Ferlinghetti on the top,
Oh, wow.
Paranoid Contentment, Intellectual History. And he had been to my house. I brought him for a reading, and back then it was all letter writing. And I said, could you do a little blurb for Paranoid Contentment? It's a heavy book. It's on, history of philosophy, history of basically intellectual thought from the Greeks till modern America. And he wrote, Paranoid contentment is a fascinating exercise in redefining paranoia and coining the word paranoidic, thereby positioning new criteria for analyzing our life and society today. Lawrence Ferlinghetti.
Yeah.
And why did he do that for me?
Right.
He was huge at that point.
Yeah. No, I mean, he was moved. You know who was one of the most wondrous souls from that era is David Amram. I interviewed him one time, and he used to hang out with Kerouac and had stories and talked about that group. He is just a soul that hums and vibrates at such a high level, and it's all grounded and it feels so real. It's
You
wonderful.
know, you're a vestibule.
Yeah,
You are a container of so much because you interview all these people.
yeah.
You're bringing them to the world, but each one of them is changing you. You are like in a really rarefied world.
It's a sponge that's so fascinating. And it's hard for me to answer when people ask, why do you do this? And it's such a I remember after I interviewed Sonny Rollins, I called my show engineer. His name is John Christopher. And I was humming. I was just on another cloud. And he stopped me and he said, Joe, I want you to understand something right now. This point on, everything that you give them or everything that you feel like they're giving you, you're giving them as well. It's a two-way avenue.
But
And the
you're a different Joe now than you were a half hour ago. You're a different
absolutely,
Joe than you were a week ago. God
absolutely.
knows who you interviewed last week. I mean, it's constantly morphing you.
I mean, I just, my wife will be like, "What happened today?" And I'll talk to her. And it's like, there's just these amazing stories. And she's like, wait. You mean what? Like, she gets confused because there's just
Yeah.
such a breadth of stories. But you know what? In this modern era of all of this clownery that's going on in our world right now, I'm grounded in the fact that human beings, the spirit that we embody, is really good. We're
Yeah.
really good people and we need to find our way. And there's a lot of us like you that have found your way and you're giving those seeds and you're just throwing them in the air and they're
It's
landing.
very interesting you say that. I don't know how much time I have, but I started off every reading for Soda Lake. The tour just ended, as I said, and I started it by bringing up, not heavy-handed, but I said, you know, look at the world we're in now. It's so oppressive. There's so much going on. We want to block out the news. We feel like we're being controlled and things are being taken away and things we achieve were being taken away. It's so much. It's so much. It's overwhelming. And all I have is Soda Lake tonight. I have this little push cart of this strange postmodern, hopefully visionary book. And I think now more than ever, and I mean this, I'm not kidding, now more than ever do we need art. Because art is the great answer to madmen, you know?
100%.
And tonight we're going to push that little push cart uphill.
Yep.
And everybody responds to that in the audience. Everybody picks up on that. And, you know, art is all about creating new unities of being, you know? So, you know, Picasso seeing something, witnessing something, he does a painting, he does Guernica, you know, and it gives us a new unit. Tim O'Brien, a friend of mine, writes a Vietnam War novel. It gives us a new unity of
Oh,
being, of
wow. Things they
understanding
left
Vietnam.
behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that book. Absolutely love that book.
Things They Carried, or which one?
The things they carried. Yeah. Yeah. I think
Have
that
you
would be
ever
that.
read his earlier book? Uh, what's it called? Jesus, I love it. If I Die in a Combat Zone, Box Me Up and Ship Me Home.
I think so. I think I
It's
got into
very
event with
skinny.
him.
It's like 90 pages. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. I,
It's his first book.
yeah.
Yeah, I used to teach it when I taught at Boston University.
Wow.
Uh, he's a good man.
Yeah.
I'm in touch with him a lot too. He's been struggling with health a lot lately, but he's still churning it out. Yeah, he's a great guy.
So this has been fascinating. We've run away with our time here.
I
But
know. Damn it.
yeah, I know. We need to do a part two. You're a monolith, John. Thank you. And like you just said, it's hard for me to put into words, but when I get off a conversation with a soul like you, with who you are and what you're doing on this planet, it's overwhelming, and it really does change the chlorides in my blood. And it's an
Thank you
honor.
very much, Jonah. I hope to meet you in person sometime.
Yes.
Maybe.